Hello, and welcome to Going for Broadway. I'm Eryn Woo, and each week I chat with playwrights, directors, actors, talent agents, and many others who live their lives in, on, and around the stage. I'm sharing their secrets so you, too, can join me on this journey towards Broadway. Okay. So, do you know why in bridges of Madison County there are no bridges named Chuck Norris? Because no one crosses Chuck Norris. Hey!
Welcome to the Going for Broadway podcast with Eryn Woo. Eryn is a young performer who has acted and sung in many plays and has dreams of reaching Broadway. Each day is another step closer to that goal.
Hey everybody, welcome to Going for Broadway. I have here today Dr. Roy Fluhrer. Dr. Fluhrer was born into the world of theater. As a baby, he slept in a theater trunk while his parents performed with the Hallie Flanagan Federal Theater Project. Dr. Fluhrer, director of the Greenville County School District's Fine Arts Center, has worked as the artistic director of the Toledo Repertoire Theater, vice chancellor at the North Carolina School of the Arts, that's like one of the top college programs in the Southeast, and chairman of the theater department at the University of Idaho. He came to the upstate in 1989 and is at the Fine Arts Center now, where yours truly is currently studying, through a lifetime of changes culminating in its 2000 move to a state-of-the-art facility next door to Wade Hampton High School. Although he grew up surrounded by actors, Dr. Fluhrer says he didn't really fall in love with the theater until he was about 13. That's when his mother forced him to attend the production of Henry V, starring Laurence Olivier, even though Dr. Fluhrer didn't know who Olivier was and wasn't interested in seeing the show. After that show, Dr. Fluhrer said he loved it and decided that this is what he wanted to do. Dr. Fluhrer has won many awards, and it would take the rest of this podcast to list them all. A small sampling of them are the Elizabeth O'Neill Verner Award in 2008, South Carolina's highest award, the Jeffrey Lawrence Award in 2008, the highest award given by Network to an artist administrator. In 2012, he received the Metropolitan Arts Council Lifetime Achievement Award, and in May of 2015, the South Carolina Theater Association gave him their Lifetime Service Award. So, welcome, Dr. Fluhrer. How are you doing today?
I'm good, but the guy you just described, Eryn, is not here. I don't know who that person is you were talking about.
Really?
No. So, what are we going to talk about this morning?
Well, my dad says that you are larger than life, and one of his high points in the week is getting one of your voicemails. I mean, he absolutely loves them.
That's very nice.
Yes, he's been to many of your presentations and always leaves awestruck. So, number of questions for you that I'd like to share your insights on with me and my audience. Just first, I'm currently studying at the Fine Arts Center now, and I just want to know that when you created the curriculum, was it to train professional actors, or was it a broader goal to create people who just appreciated the theater?
Well, that's a question that you really should ask Terry, who's your teacher, because I did not create the theater curriculum. Now, it's appropriate to underscore that principals in high schools are typically listed as the head of the curriculum in all of the areas. Well, that's kind of difficult because not any principal can know everything about calculus or literary fiction or poetry or sciences. Likewise, although theater is my area, it would be, I think, an insult to Terry not to listen to what Terry wants to do. So Terry is the one who put that curriculum together, and of course I approved it. So I guess what you could say, I played something of a role in it. But the idea was that we wanted to make sure that when we saw students of talent, that we could push those students along the path to attending the kind of school that will provide them the skills to reach the next level, which would be a really good college or conservatory program, or in other instances where we have students in technical theater, move them in that direction. Some, of course, in the school, and only about almost 60% of our students go on into the arts when they graduate. The rest don't. So we have some students who take theater and then use that as a stepping stone to public relations or marketing or those kinds of things. So it really is an opportunity existing for students to come here and pursue a path that is of great interest to them, and we will make sure that they get the kind of training that gets them where we hope will lead them to a career in the theater or a career somewhere else. But it's not a conservatory program at the high school level.
Right. When you see a student actor perform, is there something special, some kind of spark maybe that you look for?
Oh, yeah, sure. It's anybody who's attended a professional audition, and you rarely get to do that or gone through one, or as I've done, conducted them, you can tell within the first, I would say 10 or 15 seconds whether you listen to anybody who's got anything. The first thing that you're looking for is there a connection between the student and the material, or is the student playing at the material? Is there any honesty in the work? If I see honesty in the work, I'm not too concerned right away, particularly at the high school level, how they're fiscalizing that, but I want to know that there's some honesty there, that there's some bringing of oneself, or one's experience, whatever limits are on that experience at that age, to that moment that they're auditioning with. Too often they will come in, a student will come in and audition for this program, and too often in college programs, because I saw them there, and too often in professional areas, because I saw them there. They come in with the wrong piece of material, they come in with, I have to act, and nothing turns me off quicker.
What separates just a good performer versus one with lots of potential and maybe even has a chance to, get to Broadway?
Well, I think I just answered that, Eryn. Interestingly, I just came from New York. I was just there this past weekend. And I took my wife's nephew, and it was his first trip to New York, so he's 11 years old, so we took him to see Matilda. And, of course, that is got a number of very young performers in them, and they're all just smashing. I mean, incredible. Yeah. And, I'm supposing some of them are reaching 14, maybe 15. But heavens, they were just amazing. Well, somewhere along the line, way back when they were younger, and we all know examples of that. I don't know if you remember Shirley Temple, you're probably too young, but she was pretty charming when she was 7 or 8 years old. She never really was able to continue her career because she just didn't have it as she got older. We know of all the child actors who had difficulty really making careers for themselves. Mickey Rooney was highly successful, so was Elizabeth Taylor. There are others, of course, but it's difficult when you see a young kid and you see this incredible ability, the ability as these kids in Matilda showed, of not only be able to sing, dance, and act. Well, somewhere along their path as a youngster, somebody said, my God, I got to get this kid to some training, and they did. And so consequently, the training, I hope, and what I see, was training of the kind that developed all of those skills and developed them in such a fashion that they now have pretty immense opportunities in front of them if they continue to work towards it, and if they don't get self-satisfied in what they're doing, let's say in this case Matilda on Broadway, there are going to be other opportunities, and they have to grow into those opportunities, and growing into those opportunities means continuing study.
Right, so they're kids, and they're obviously serious about being in the theater, but do you think that's always true for being a kid who has the interest in theater, beginning a pathway of serious study? Or when do you think that they should?
Well, I don't know if there's a time when they think that they should. Of course, some of the horror stories with kids are parents, and it's a great Broadway musical based upon that, which is Gypsy, where the mother pushes both of her children, both who turned out to be very famous, June Havoc, who went on to a film career, and of course Gypsy Rosalie, who went on to a career in burlesque. But that was the quintessential stage presentation of a mother who is shoving her children so that she can relive her own life through her children. And there are horror stories about other stage mothers. I think Judy Garland had one, and et cetera. So I don't know what you say when you see a student or you feel that you have a child who has that great ability. You have to make sure that the person who is training them and that your expectations for that child are not your own personal expectations, but helping that your child develop that skill through the mentorship and careful instruction of somebody who really has the student's interest at heart and not trying to bring the student along too fast. It's like a fabulous racehorse. You don't run it in the Kentucky Derby right away. You build it up to that.
Right. So I've heard you talk of creating an atmosphere that pushes students to reach and grow and to look at failure as a learning experience. Could you talk a little more on that?
Sure. There's a marvelous essay by Carl Rogers, who was a humanist psychologist back in the 50s and 60s, and it's in his book On Becoming a Person, and it's about creativity. The essay is about creativity. And one of the important things about creativity is providing an atmosphere in which a student or an administrator or anybody can feel that they have worth, self-worth, and that they are appreciated for what they're attempting to do. Now, that doesn't mean if they're not doing the work well or something like that, that you make excuses for them. But there has to be an environment where one feels that one can risk something. And theater is all about risk, isn't it? I mean, you're in it, you know that you've done it. So it's about being willing to put yourself out there in a way that sometimes can be dangerous. And in being dangerous, you expose a part of yourself, and you're afraid to expose that part of yourself for fear of how people will treat you for that risk that you're taking. Well, if I don't feel as an actor that I can take that risk, that I have the right to fail, to test the edges of who I am, then I'm not in an environment that's going to help me develop the best way that I can. So there has to be a place, which is why we call it rehearsal. There has to be a place where I can try some things and see if things are working. And if they aren't working, then one has to be in a place where the person that you're working with says, all right, that didn't work. Why didn't we try this? Give this a try. And I think you've heard me say that the famous quote by Samuel Beckett, I believe it's by Samuel Beckett, fail again, fail better. Unless you have that opportunity to do that, if you know that you have a place that's safe, where you can experiment, if you're working with a group that is all doing that, we're all trying to get to the same place, but we have that excitement of being able to say, can I try? Let me do this. Then that's the place you want to be. If you have a place, I once, this is perfect. I once worked with a director who typed, are you ready? Typed his prompt script. How willing do you think that director would be to change what he had typed? And it was the kind of thing like take 2 steps to the left, put your hand on the sofa, and scratch your nose with the other hand, something like that. I mean, it's absurd.
Right.
You have to trust the actors, and you have to trust what they're bringing to the moment. If you don't, then it's not an ensemble, it's not a collaboration, it's a dictatorship.
Right. There's a lot more of not getting the part than getting the part, and I guess you just learn from all your experiences.
Yeah, if you don't, then you're not you're not taking advantage of the opportunities you are being given to learn.
Right. All right, so in the theater, there are many different genres, musicals, comedies, straight plays. How would an actor prepare for them all? Or should one be like a specialist in one and only audition for the types that they fall under?
Well, I mean, I think, do you dance, Eryn?
I do, just a little bit, yeah.
Do you tap, Eryn?
No, I don't.
Okay. Do you sing, Eryn?
I do.
Do you sing really beautifully, Eryn?
Pretty decent.
Yeah, well, what I'm saying is if you go to a Broadway show, and I'll just, again, since I was just at Matilda, not only do they have young people in there, but they have adults in there as well.
Right.
So these adults sing, dance, and act. Well, and I'm talking about really dance. I mean, not candy ass dancing. You know, and if you go see, I'm sure if you see American in Paris, which is on Broadway right now,
yes,
you're going to see tap dancers, you're going to see singers, and you're going to see actors. Well, that's a special kind of a breed, okay? Not everybody has the skill. I don't dance, and I'm not saying that I was ever on Broadway, but I don't dance. I don't have that skill. Yes, I sang. Was I a trained singer? No. Should I have been? Probably could have been, and probably would have been pretty good at it, but didn't really focus on that. I just focused on acting. There are lots of actors who are highly accomplished, who are dancers, singers, and actors. There are lots of actors who are just actors, and they know what they're capable of, and they pursue their craft in the particular area that they perceive themselves to be really good at. Now, sometimes you're asked to do something, like Rex Harrison was asked to do Professor Higgins in My Fair Lady. He didn't sing, but they taught him how to talk sing, and he became a star on Broadway for being able to talk sing Professor Higgins in My Fair Lady. So, but I think if you're going to be a musical comedy person, you know at a very early age, I have to sing, I have to dance, and I have to act. So you better learn how to do all of those things. If you're an actor, you can focus on that. If you're going to be a Shakespearean actor, you can focus on that. So you better have a pretty good idea of who you are, because you're going to walk into an audition and say you sing, and people are going to say, person doesn't sing at all. Okay,
right.
So you have to be careful and nurture your abilities.
Speaking of abilities and training, so this year at the Fine Arts Center, I've been exposed to like many different types of training, like Kristen Linklater, elements of movement, Laban, and there are more, Stanislavski, Meisner. Could you put all this in perspective? Like, I know you already sort of answered this, but with methods, should you keep it simple and focus on one that works for you, or keep on learning different ones?
Well, I have a problem with the single approach, like the method or Meisner or Uta Hagen just by themselves. There are many ways to get to Muncie. That's my little joke, that if I'm going to get to Muncie, Indiana, I can take a bus, I can take a train, I can fly, I can walk, I can ride a bicycle. You get the idea. So there are many ways to solve a problem on the stage. Sometimes I say to Eryn, can you think of a time when something in your childhood or this moment, what are you feeling, tasting, smelling, hearing, at this moment? Bring that to this moment on the stage, or those kinds of things. So you're working with various tools that you have. And the more tools you have in your toolbox, I think the better prepared you're going to be to solve the problem of the moment on the stage. And a director has to understand that too. A director has to understand that one moment he may say to an actor, let's try this approach. Then the next moment the actor's having trouble, the director will say, let's try another approach. And it's not the same one. Any way that we can get to the truth of the moment on the stage, and the way that you get there is helpful. There's some wonderful stories about English actors, and I forget, there was one who years ago was saying, I'm just kneading the dough and I'm just putting it in the pie tin and making the pie, or making the bread. I forget what it was she said, but she had her own way of solving the problems. Okay, so each of us brings to the theatrical moment our truth and how we get to that truth. And if we're going to be at the highest level, we know it has to be truthful, and we have to have that, be able to recreate that truth every night. So it's not something where one way is the only way. And that, again, there's a wonderful book by Bobby Lewis on Method of Madness, in which he talks about the group theater, which is the Stanislavski as bastardized by Lee Strasberg, and Strasberg took it in a different direction. So there are different ways of approaching this, and one should be open to all of them. I think all of them could help you. You could use Meisner, you could use Stanislavski, you could use Uda, you could use all of those things to help you find the truth that you're searching for.
Right, so it's really just whatever you need to get.
Yeah, to your goal. But it's whatever you need. But it's also you need to be inside of each one of those approaches, so that intellectually you know how to use that tool. Don't hand me a speed drill to hang a picture on the wall, because I'll drill right through the new wall to the other side if the bit is long enough, because I just don't have that skill. If I get a tool in my hand, my sons immediately call 911 and say, "Get over here, Dad has a tool." So no, you have to know how to use the tool, and you have to understand the tool. So at this stage of your development, you're getting all those tools, and isn't it marvelous? You've got Suzuki, you've got Laban, you've got so here you are learning all of these things. Which one works for you the best? Which one prepares you the best? Linklater is a method of using your voice. Edith Warman Skinner is a method of how to say the words correctly, so that you can get rid of your southern accent and say when you mean to say when. And so you have all of those tools, all of those things that you're learning. Those are the things that you bring to bear on the moment on the stage. And the more tools you have and the better you are at using those tools comes from your intellectual understanding of what those tools are and what portion of that tool works for you the best. And then I apply that in the moment on the stage.
Right. So should an aspiring actor put all of his eggs in one basket? Like if my goal is to be on Broadway as an actor, I'm not as a waitress, should everything I do be focused on that one goal, or should there be a backup plan if that were not to work out?
Well, your parents are going to tell you need a backup plan, Eryn.
Yeah.
But, there has to be a drive. There has to be an internal need. There has to be, I'm not going to give up on this. I'm going to keep pushing. I just saw an interview with Mark Ruffalo, and Ruffalo's got this great story. And there are many stories like this of how hard he worked, of all the rejection that he got. And finally, after 10 years or so, he finally got a break and did something. Everybody said he was an overnight success. Well, the same story is told of Dustin Hoffman. Dustin Hoffman, when he did The Graduate, was 30. He had been working, trying to get work in New York and done little things here and there. But it was The Graduate that made Dustin Hoffman a star. Gene Hackman has the same kind of story. You have to focus. You have to say, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to do this. And I have to be really focused, and I have to be getting better and better and better. We can't forget the constant need to train, and we have to train. We have to make sure we're training with good people, and we have to make sure that we're working with good people. Although I did have a friend of mine once tell me that where I'm not going to send my actors to work with you because you're too nice to them, and there aren't that many nice directors out there. So
yeah.
I don't know, but the point is that yes, you have to stay focused. And yes, Eryn, you will waitress while you're trying to do all the other stuff that you want to do. Yeah.
Right, so I understand that you will be retiring a couple years, and you've been known to say that the Fine Arts Center is just a lonely place in June and July when the students are gone for the summer. So what are you going to do without us when you retire?
I'm going to do small animal taxidermy. I'm going to stuff squirrels and chipmunks and sell them as a kind of little arrangement on your front porch to welcome the mailman every day.
Awesome.
I have no idea what I'm going to do.
Like any more directing, acting anywhere?
Well, I'll probably do some directing here and there if the opportunity presents itself. And I just did 40 sonnets for our 40th anniversary.
Yes.
And that was really hard. It's been a long time since I was on the stage. And to turn my 77-year-old brain around 40 sonnets one after another was a little hard.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. I mean, one sonnet for me, just picking that apart was...
You're very sweet. But it was a test, and if I was grading myself, I'd probably give myself a B. I made some, went up a couple of times, but hell, that's what... Students need to see that those of us who are in positions of power, who pretend that we know everything, they need to know that we have problems as well, that we make mistakes, and we are human as well. So there's a great story about Olivier. I didn't see the production of Henry V of Olivier. I saw the movie, which is what I went back to see the next night. But there's a wonderful story about Olivier. He was doing, I think it was Coriolanus, and Jonathan Miller, who was directing it, was standing off stage, and suddenly it didn't sound like Coriolanus, and he realized that Olivier had dropped in 20 lines or so from Titus Andronicus. Now, it may be reversed. He may have been doing Titus Andronicus dropped in line some Coriolanus. But anyway, Olivier went up. He dropped in line some another Shakespearean play and went on. So even Olivier said that he had difficulty on stage. And as he got older, he said he was fearful and went through a terrifying time when he was getting from line to line. He just wasn't sure what the next line was going to be, and he said it was incredibly debilitating. I didn't do what Olivier did, obviously, but I just remember the terror I had in trying to remember where I was in a couple of those sonnets. Well, did it bother me? Sure, it bothered me that I wasn't perfect, but that's what you see, that's what you get, and you understand that even Roy Fluhrer, who says he's been doing this all of his life, and essentially he has, Roy Fluhrer makes mistakes. And there he is in all his quivering humanity. Don't stomp on him too much because we all make mistakes. I recognize it, and I gave myself a B, okay?
All right.
All right.
Wow. Okay, so our 25 minutes is coming to a close, but quickly before time runs out, if someone in my audience wanted to get in touch with you, where could they find you? What would be the best way?
Roy Octo, that's ROYOCTO, Octo for the month of October, the month of my birth, at gmail.com.
All right, and just any last words?
I don't know if I have any last words other than to say that unless you're willing to sacrifice, unless you're willing to put yourself out there on a daily basis, and that goes for any of us, then you're not likely to succeed very much. You're likely to be very content with mediocrity. Don't be content with mediocrity.
All right.
All
noted.
right.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you, dear.
Yes.
I appreciate it.
Appreciate your time as well as your lifetime contribution to the arts.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.